Hey everyone, back tuning into today's video. It's November month-end forecast today. We're going to have a look at what may be around the corner for the month of November. A bit late, a bit 4th of November today. Usually I like to do it a bit earlier than this. It's just how things have worked out with the weekend. Now, before we get on with the November forecast, just want to talk about the advertising. This video ads on my pages at GazWebBiz.com. So if you hit play on the video ad, you will be supporting GazWebBiz.com. And thanks very much for doing that. Gaz Shop is open for business, so you need to go to Amazon to do any Christmas shopping. Click through the Amazon banners in Gaz Shop and you'll be able to go and do your Christmas shopping as you would normally at Amazon, but at the same time Gaz Webbiz will get a royalty fee. And again, thanks very much for doing that. So very quickly before I get on with November, just want to talk about October. The October forecast was for a warmer than average month and a drier than average month. Well, the temperature forecast turned out very good. We finished up with a central England temperature of 12.5 degrees in October, which is 1.9 degrees above average. Very warm month, one of the top 10 warmest on record, I think, and that just goes along with July and August, which were both very warm months as well. September was around the seasonal average, but yeah, we certainly had a very warm October. However, the pattern that brought that, I didn't get it right because I was expecting quite an anticyclonic month with high pressure sitting just to the southeast of the country, keeping it pretty dry. It turned out to be a very wet month. We had a very dominated Atlantic. It was an unusual pattern because there was high pressure to the east of the country and these big low pressures in the west, and between the two pressure belts we brought up lots of very warm sort of southerly and southwesterly winds. So that's the reason, despite having a very unsettled month, it was also a very warm month. That's quite unusual for October. Usually in October, if it's a wet month, it tends to be quite chilly, but the pattern that brought it was quite unusual. But anyway, it was a warmer than average month, so I got that part right, but much wetter than average, and I got that wrong. So, bit of a hit and a miss, really, this one. Temperature okay, precipitation not quite so good. So, going on and having a look at what's expected for November. Well, we're going to start off with the JMA model, the 500 millibar heights. So you would have seen these on Friday if you watched Friday's video, but just want to very quickly review them. This is the British Isles just here. This is 500 millibar height forecast for the next week. So going through the first week of November, the week that we're currently in. And basically we're seeing a very strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic. The blue curves indicating below average heights. Very unsettled and at times potentially quite stormy, and lots of heavy rain would be a really unsettled week, and indeed that is the pattern that we are currently in. As we go through to the second week of the period, which is the second week of the month, conveniently, we find that we do get some heights building to the south and the southwest of the country, and with those orange and yellow colours there, the low pressure, the unsettled conditions with below average heights going up to the northwest. So the jet stream is being pushed northwards with this. That's potentially very mild, as I explained on Friday. We could get a long southwesterly fetch with that coming from the tropical Atlantic. So that potentially is a very mild week through the second week of November. And then as we go through to the third and fourth weeks, which is the third and fourth weeks of November, well then we get heights building right over the top of the country with that area of yellow. So with the high pressure building up over the country, we're likely to see a pretty chilly spell potentially coming along actually later on in the month. High pressure latter part of November means that it is likely with the long nights and the heat radiating away through the nights to become really quite chilly, and there could be frost and fog with that. So definitely a shift in the latter stages with the JMA, latter stages of November, for things to turn a good deal cooler under that bridge of high pressure. The Asian Climate Centre 10-day forecast for November, so this is taking us from the 3rd to the 10th of November, again 500 millibar heights, really unsettled, strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic, the blue colours indicating that we've got below average heights and there'll be a lot of heavy rain and strong winds coming through. Same idea as the JMA through the middle period, so this is taking us from the 11th to the 20th, the high pressure building up across the country. Again, there could be a long fetch southwesterly with this, so it could get very mild at some point through that middle 10 days of November. But then the high pressure carries on going further north, so it's sitting over and to the north and the northeast of the country with these orange colours just here. These are above average height. So yeah, the signal then is that we take the high pressure further north, and that could start to pull in cooler or colder air off the continent from the east, if that is right, going through the final 10 days of the month. So very similar to the JMA model, which is about the second half of the month, and particularly the final week to 10 days, could see high pressure building in, and eventually that could start to drag in a lot cooler air. But in terms of the temperature forecast for the month, this is the temperature anomaly from the Beijing Climate Centre for November, and it is seeing a warmer than average month in those orange colours there across the country. But remember, if that high pressure builds in later in the month and goes up towards Scandinavia and the north of Scotland, it would turn a good deal colder in the final week or so of the month. But it is seeing a milder than average month. In terms of precipitation, it's seeing quite an unsettled month, actually, quite above average in terms of the rainfall, particularly to the west. It's nearer normal to the east, and the reason is that the high pressure is building in and becoming centred more towards the east and the northeast. That's the reason the anomaly is wetter to the west and not as wet to the east. But all areas probably getting average, slightly above average rainfall in November with the Beijing Climate Centre. The CFS version 2 model finally, and this is the 700 millibar height anomaly from the CFS model for November. It is seeing a deep trough of low pressure sitting out in the Atlantic, high pressure to the south of that trough. So we've got the low pressure around Greenland and Iceland, the high pressure through the central Atlantic going into Europe, and a very strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic. So that is a really unsettled month. There'll be lots of heavy rain coming through, and with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, we're in a generally westerly to southwesterly flow, so it wouldn't be a particularly cold month. In fact, the temperature anomalies are showing that most of Europe is in for a mild or a very mild month. Actually, the highest anomalies are over Scandinavia and western parts of Russia with those red colours. But all areas forecast to have quite a warm month. The British Isles actually is the only part of Europe that's close to average, really. Down in the southwest, we've got a little bit of orange, so above average, but many parts of the country with this are being forecast to have average temperatures. So Britain Island, one of the coolest parts of Europe actually, which is quite surprising with that 700 millibar height anomaly. But a very Atlantic dominated, unsettled westerly or southwesterly November is being predicted by the CFS model, and hardly surprising, it's going for a wetter than average month as well. All parts of the country really are in those green colours, so above average rainfall, as is much of northern and northwestern Europe. To be honest, Scandinavia, northern France, even down into northern Spain, we're in those greener colours. Through the Mediterranean, only in the southeast of Europe, we're in orange and red colours. That's because the high pressure is extending in off the Atlantic. So that's a typical sort of Atlantic setup, really, with westerly winds bringing the unsettled weather to northern Europe, high pressure coming in off the Azores through the Mediterranean. That's a very classic westerly, prevailing southwesterly, westerly type pattern. So all models appear to be going for this idea that it's going to be quite a mild month, really, with westerly winds dominating and unsettled as well. But there is the caveat to this, which is that the JMA and Beijing Climate Centre are both coming up with the idea that later on in the month we're going to get a change as high pressure builds up from the south, initially bringing very mild air potentially across the country. But if high pressure goes further north, so it's sitting over the country, eventually gets to the north of the country in the latter stage of the month, then it could start turning quite a lot colder. So we've got to be careful how mild we go this month. It could potentially, if that high pressure does never build up over the country and go north, it could potentially be a very mild November. But if the high pressure does build up, go north, we're going to get much more in way of frost. Frost very quickly will bring the temperature down if we start getting a string of hard overnight frost. So I think we've got to go really just for slightly above average temperatures this month, and maybe even coming close to average really for most parts of the country. I'm not convinced we're going to have a very mild month, because in that final 10 days, I do expect a build of pressure with colder nights in particular, some night frost and some fog, keeping daytime temperatures well down by day, even in the fog as well. So yeah, I think we're going to have quite a mild first half of the month, particularly. Although this first week isn't going to be as mild as I was expecting, I think the second week of the month probably will be quite mild. But then later on in the month, I think we have to watch out for frost and fog. So in terms of the prediction, I do think we're going to have slightly above average temperatures, average to very slightly above average, but I don't think it's going to be overly warm this November. I don't think we're going to have a repeat of the very high anomaly that we had in October. In terms of precipitation, probably near normal, much wetter in the first half and drier in the second half. So that's my prediction from Gavs Weather this for November. Just have a very quick look at the CFS version 2 700 millibar high to anomaly for December, and it's seeing really a continuation of November's pattern, which is low pressure in the Atlantic centered around Greenland, Iceland, high pressure to the south of it, coming through the mid-Atlantic, going into central parts of Europe. Still a strong jet stream blowing across the Atlantic. So basically, the pattern that we have in November, it's seeing it going on into December as well. Very unsettled month, and it wouldn't be a cold month either. But that's a long way off. We'll leave December alone. Finally, coming back to a summary for November from Gavs Weather. I'm expecting temperatures to be average to very slightly above average, but it will be offset by cold weather later in the month, I think. And in terms of the precipitation, probably near normal, wet in the first half, drier in the second half. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.